Welcome to the Baseball Insiders. I am Adam Weinrib, joined as always by Fansided's MLB insider Robert Murray. It's going down. I'm yelling timber. Juan Soto signing tonight, tomorrow, Sunday. Close. No cigar though, but pretty close. What's the latest on Juan Soto's market? When can we expect a decision? Prior to the winter meetings? During the winter meetings? Does he get introduced day one of the winter meetings? Is everyone as sick of this as I am? I'm not sure because people still have a lot of questions about it, so we'll get to them. We'll see you in the comments. We'll answer a few of your questions. Obviously, we've got all-star questions in the Discord, too. We've got to answer questions about Cody Bellinger, Corbin Burns, the Yankees' potential plan B, some interest there. Who else might sign at the winter meetings? This is our final show before the meetings. We've obviously got plenty of content lined up for once they begin, but this is the last time we'll be live until Robert is on the ground in Dallas, and I am at home stewing, trying to keep up with all the moves. But Robert helps us do that. Robert Murray, how are you doing, dude?
I am doing great. I'm much better than I was on Wednesday. I did not throw up before this show, so already off to a better start than the last episode. Thank goodness for that.
Is that breaking? Does everybody know that?
Oh, I don't think I revealed that on the last show, but yeah, I threw up about 3 minutes before the last show on Wednesday, so that was real bad.
I was so sad I couldn't do the last show. Somebody I think was trying to install cable or internet in my building and hit the turn off Adam Weinrib's internet button, and then the guy came to fix it. And he was like, it's always so dumb when they come to fix it. It's never like, oh, this was a legit problem. I'm so glad that you called. It was like somebody mashed the off key and then I put it back on. It's like, oh, great. Thank you for your service. So we're back.
We're back. And it feels good to have Adam here because it was kind of lonely just being here by myself while I was coughing the entire stream. So I appreciate everyone who tuned in and watched that with me. It was very kind of you. I have plenty of stuff to talk about today. I got lots in the notebook. It's going to be even more full next week as I'm at the winter meetings that fly out Sunday. Very excited for that. But Adam Weinrib, how are you?
I am good. I am going to use the golden bat rule sometime in this podcast and answer my hardest hitting question twice. It's fun. It's the fun time of year. It's the best time of year. I'm ready to go. I'm ready for a resolution on Juan Soto, as I'm sure many people are, and many teams are, quite frankly, because a lot of plan Bs are in a lot of states of uncertainty right now, trying to pick up the pieces, and a lot of teams, only one team can sign Juan Soto, and the rest are going to have to figure out the rest of their infrastructure. So they need to know sooner rather than later. No better time to join the Discord, by the way. Become a member of the YouTube channel. Hit us up, get the access link, join at either the Rumor Mill tier or the All-Star tier, where we'll have private Q&As with Robert and myself. I just did one. That was fun. I'll happy to do more, but Robert's going to do one after the winter meetings to fill everybody in when his notebook is a little bit fuller and overflowing. So we'd love to see you there. Also, follow the Baseball Insiders on Instagram. We created an Instagram account today, so be one of the Baseball Insiders' first followers on Instagram. Help us grow on that platform as well. We would be very appreciative of that. Also, we just so happen to have an email called The Moonshot. That's our weekly baseball email newsletter where the Fansided MLB team, including Robert Murray and I, was on this past week's Moonshot and plan to be on more. Break down all the biggest stories in the big leagues with humor, insight, and behind-the-scenes info. So get on that mailing list, join the Discord, and turn on the alarm bell for this channel so that you know when we're going live. We're going to be going live, I believe, at 12:30 Eastern throughout the winter meetings every day. So some of that might change. Robert's schedule might get pulled in different directions. If so, you're going to want to be subscribed and turn the alerts on so that you know what's happening. So welcome to the show, Juan Soto. So John Heyman just had a stream, and he mentioned some interesting things, that there's a chance of 4 teams getting to that 700 million range. There's a chance that this gets done before the winter meetings. There's a chance that this gets done early in the winter meetings. There's a chance that the bidding, I think Buster Olney and Passan were on this yesterday saying it could get up to 750 million. Obviously, people are speculating Steve Cohen could be in blank check mode, doing whatever it takes to get it done, to top any offer. Lots to parse through, lots we don't know. What do we know? Does the timeline, at least, of before the winter meetings and the parameters of 700 plus feel right to you? And I'm being told in the comments to shut up about Juan Soto. He is the most important free agent on the market, so I do think we are going to talk about Juan Soto. And I apologize for talking about Juan Soto.
I'm not apologizing for talking about Juan Soto.
We'll get it out of the way. We're doing it first. I mean,
we're doing it first. And Juan Soto, like, it remains the 5 teams that we've all known about throughout this entire process. You got the two New York teams, the Boston Red Sox, the Toronto Blue Jays, and the Los Angeles Dodgers. None of these teams have been ruled out by any means. I still kind of think that the Dodgers are on the outside looking in for this, and my guess is that he goes to one of the 2 New York teams. But no one has been ruled out as of this point. And with each passing day, I become more convinced that $700 million or even more than that is becoming a pretty realistic thought. And it is going to be a mega contract. It's going to be over 10 years, possibly as many as 15, somewhere in that range. There surely will be opt-outs in it as well. But Soto is about to be a very rich person. When that deal eventually comes remains to be seen. There's been plenty of buzz that it's going to come before the winter meetings. We saw Heyman just say on his stream and Bleacher Report that it could even come on Monday. So, I mean, the timeline is kind of moving a little bit, but somewhere between now and the start of the winter meetings, or just even the winter meetings in general, I think is a very realistic time frame. And as I said in the last show, and I'll say this more eloquently because I'm not coughing, once Juan Soto signs, all hell is going to break loose on this market. And we're going to be diving into that plenty. But it's going to be pretty crazy, and I am prepared to not sleep at all. I am prepared to deliver as much content for you guys on every stream that we're doing from the winter meetings as well.
I can't wait. And obviously, we're talking worst case Soto news drops. I think Monday night is the worst case because we all want this to get moving before the winter meetings really start. We don't want day one to still be sapped up with Soto. That said, we are hearing more and more about, hey, the Yankees maybe they've been in touch with Max Fried. Maybe they're interested in Willy Adames. Maybe they've been in touch with Corbin Burns. We've heard that the Blue Jays have been in touch with Corbin Burns. We've heard that the Red Sox may or may not have at some point requested a meeting to ask Boris and company, hey, is there a get it done number for us here? And I think people are struggling to decide, does that mean they're in a pole position, or does that mean they're kind of desperate, wondering if there's like a way they can make a difference? As of now, though, you're saying New York is the most likely outcome, but again, we don't really know much of anything until the hammer comes down.
Yeah, what has been done by Boris and Soto is they've kept obviously we know the teams that are involved, but they've kept how he's thinking, how he's leaning, and the money involved. They've kept that very private. And I think that's intentional. And I think that's a good thing because the more leaks in their case, the more complicated this free agency gets. And we don't know of any favorites at this point. And I mean, obviously I still think he goes to one of the 2 New York teams, but we don't know exactly which team is in the pole position here. And there's going to be teams that try to make a push at the last second here. We've heard consistently that the Blue Jays want to be seriously considered in this. We've heard the Red Sox want to be seriously considered in it as well. And we saw what Alex Spear ended up reporting in the Globe about how they're trying to get that last meeting with Soto to try to see what it's going to take to get him, or what kind of offer it's going to take to get him. Not sure if they're going to get that meeting necessarily. I don't know necessarily what that means. But what I do know is that this free agency is coming to a close. It's hopefully at this point a matter of days. And then once we end up having once we have Soto come off the board, we're going to have all these teams know exactly what their payroll looks like and how exactly they're going to pivot, or whoever signs Soto, how they're exactly going to go about addressing the rest of their roster. Because if you look at the Mets, you look at the Yankees, you look at the Blue Jays, you look at the Red Sox, all those teams, they have a lot of different holes to fill on their team. Like, they're not one Juan Soto away. And I think after Soto signs, those teams in particular are going to end up going after their secondary options, which include Teoscar Hernandez, Jurickson Profar, Tyler O'Neill. I'm missing some others in there as well, but that's the gist of it. And it's just going to be a free for all. And I expect the market to just go pretty crazy.
Well, you mentioned that no one knows the specifics of the offer. One person does. I'd like to bring on our special guest here on the Baseball Insiders, Carlos Mendoza's son. Thank you for joining us. No, we have no guests today, but yes, we'll learn more hopefully in the coming days. I do think I think the Jays, like you said, the Jays have every intention of being serious, and there was word that they even intended to be the highest bid. For me, I rule out the Jays only because if you sign Juan Soto to this $700 million plus deal, the Jays are the only team that would have to pay double, because then they would have to also sign Vlad Guerrero Jr. to a $400 million deal in the immediate aftermath. Otherwise, what are you doing? So we'll see. I've been very clear on this show. I like the Red Sox present and future. I think we saw what a difference Soto made on a Yankees roster last year. You're replacing Alex Verdugo with Jason Dominguez this year, who is a much better baseball player. So I do see the comments saying it's a tough squad to go back to with no reinforcements coming. I think Bellinger could be a reinforcement there. I think Dominguez is an obvious upgrade. You're losing Anthony Rizzo. You're losing players who had relatively bad years. So different roster, a lot of overhaul, but I still think a strong one if you bring Soto back. And then the Mets speak for themselves. NLCS berth last year almost got past the Dodgers. They could obviously use a guy like Juan Soto. So hopefully we know by the time we go live on Monday's show. And if the timing is right over the weekend, and it does happen, we might even go live there. I do want to ask about Bellinger, and we're going to move on to a couple of other things. But we had a question in the All-Star chat about, Joel Sherman mentioned the Cubs being determined to trade Bellinger, even mentioned Seiya Suzuki, which feels like less of a possibility. He has a no trade. But you've heard the Yankees connected to Bellinger, and Sherman connected the Yankees to Bellinger with or without Soto. So it really does seem like that's a guy they like. Jack Curry was all over that on Monday's show. So question, what does the Bellinger market look like? Is that Yankees Bellinger connection real, regardless of plan B?
Yeah, I think the Yankees and Bellinger connection is a real thing. That's something I've heard for the last week or so, give or take. And I mean, I don't necessarily know if that means it's going to get done, but I think, Bellinger is a player that the Yankees, they like. And it's going to just depend on how much money the Cubs are going to be willing to eat in that deal, because what they're paying him this year is more than I think most teams are going to be comfortable with. And there's a reason why the Cubs are actively looking to move him. The one that kind of caught me off guard, though, was the Suzuki report from Joel Sherman today that the Cubs are trying to move him as well, or just one of either Suzuki or Bellinger, because Suzuki wasn't necessarily a player on my radar as far as a player, or as far as somebody who could end up being moved. And to me, it's kind of head scratching. Like I get that the Cubs are trying to shed some payroll, but you have. I'm gonna go on a rant here, and I apologize for that. But you're in a big market. You have you paid Craig Counsell 5 years for $40 million, given the biggest contract in managerial history, and you have strong pieces in place. You want to win championships with Counsell and this leadership group in place, and yet you're trying to shed salary right now in order to allocate it differently. I mean, I understand wanting to move Bellinger because that contract just does not look very good. But Suzuki, I would not look to move him. That just doesn't sit well with me. If you're the Cubs, you go out, you upgrade the roster, you add to this payroll. I don't know how much you end up adding. Maybe you add 20 to 30, if not more than that, because you're a big market team. Go out and spend. It's frustrating. I don't get it. I don't know if this is a Jed Hoyer thing. I don't know if this is a Ricketts issue. I don't necessarily know what it is, but their plan is confusing. And I'm going to go back to the Toronto Blue Jays as well.
Let's go back, because I'm getting roasted in the comments for being anti-Toronto. I think my point is that it's not that they have to sign big pieces, multiple big pieces. It's that they have to take care of. If you sign Soto, you have to take care of Guerrero Jr. right now, so that you don't play one season with an ornery Guerrero Jr. not locked up long term. Or you have to have a promise that he's going to take you seriously next year. Yeah,
and I want to preface with this: Toronto Blue Jays fans, you guys know I love you. I have a good relationship with Blue Jays fans, but I'm going to criticize the team here because you last year or at last deadline, you will go out and you promise that you want to compete in 2025. You don't trade Vlad Jr., you don't trade Bo Bichette. Now they're entering a contract year. And I don't believe there's been any progress on either extension there whatsoever. And I can't imagine Bo Bichette's going to want to do an extension after the year that he ended up having. So I would consider that pretty unlikely. And then you have so many different holes in this roster that you need to fill. You're not going to end up being a contending team with a Juan Soto or adding a premier outfielder and going out and getting a starting pitcher. Like, you have needs in the bullpen, the infield, starting rotation. Like, you have needs everywhere. This is a team that is not close to contending in my eyes. And the fact that they didn't sell at the last deadline was a huge mistake to me. They had a prime opportunity to sell some premier assets who had a year and a half of control left that would really replenish the farm system. And now, like, you talk to people around the league. I had one pretty prominent agent say that they're poised to do something big and stupid. That's an exact quote. So I don't know necessarily what that's going to be, but they're more than two pieces away, and they need a lot of help. And I don't understand their plan, and I don't understand what the Cubs' plan. Maybe they prove me wrong. I've been proven wrong before, but I don't like their plans right now.
Yeah, listen to James Rogers in the comments, everybody. He's got me. He knows what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not that they can't do both. It's just that you've got to do both now. The pressure is immense if you secure Soto, and you can't let it languish. You have to take care of it. So it's not that they can't afford both. It's that your wish list, if you get Soto, you can't afford to not also lock Vlad Jr. up long term, and you got to do it quickly. We'll hopefully know the answer to all of that by Monday's show. Before the winter meetings, before we really touch down, get into it, what else do you suspect might get done? I know this is tough because obviously once Soto signs, the floodgates could open. You've got Burns-Fried, you've got Adames. It sounds like Bregman's a little bit further away because all we know is that sort of relatively, moderate Astros offer, which is fine. But yeah, what do you expect? Are there any names that maybe we're not talking about that you think, okay, this is close enough to the market developing and it should be done by the end of the week?
Jay Greasy 1213 is nice to hear from you as well. But as far as what could end up happening at the winter meetings here, I would look for and this is dependent on the Juan Soto stuff happening, which I firmly expect that to end up being the case.
Yeah.
But I would look for the starting pitching market to heat up, because once teams have an idea of where Soto goes, then they're going to be able to pivot to like a Max Fried or a Corbin Burns, and Burns is drawing some pretty strong interest. And Fried, to my knowledge, like as has been reported, he has had a Zoom meeting with the Yankees, but I am also told that he has had Zoom meetings with other teams as well. Who those teams are at this point, I don't know, but he has had Zoom meetings with other teams from what I am told. So I'd look for that starting pitching market to heat up, and even like the mid-tier guys. I would look for the outfield market in particular to also heat up. I think a player like a Jurickson Profar's market could really come into focus. And then you obviously Teoscar Hernandez. Once Soto's off the board, maybe him and the Dodgers end up making some progress. But as of right now, I am under the impression that a Teoscar deal is not close. I should say that was as of yesterday, so maybe something's changed. I don't know, but the last I had heard, a Teoscar deal was not close with the Dodgers. Let's see what else. I want to make sure I get everything that I got here. I would also look for the reliever market to pick up here as well. We've seen Clay Holmes, as Jason Stark reported. Stark ended up saying that Holmes is nearing a decision there. I don't have any inside information on that, but he'd be one of the first dominoes to go, and then we could end up seeing a domino effect after that. I wonder how exactly the Garrett Crochet talks are going to end up progressing during the winter meetings as well, because the White Sox held out on a trade at the trade deadline and wanted to have a more extensive market, more time to figure out exactly what this is. And from what I've gathered, his market is very extensive this offseason. Interest is real. One team that I do know that has interest is the Cubs. Other teams that I've heard linked there are the Orioles, the Red Sox, and the Braves, among others to varying degrees. Let's see what that guy's asking for Pirates news. There's nothing to my knowledge to report there. But let's see. Well, I want to make sure I'm getting everything here. I also want to mention an underrated name that is not getting a lot of media attention. That is actually starting to garner some pretty strong interest. It is Kyle Hart. He is coming from overseas. He is a left-handed arm. Fangraphs projected him to get 3 years for $24 million. I believe he was ranked as their number 48 overall free agent this year. To my knowledge, he has 16 teams involved right now. So that is a very extensive market. So I would keep an eye on him, and I don't think anything is close there, but that he's a name to watch this offseason for sure. Is a kind of an under the radar kind of candidate.
Kyle Hart and Clay Holmes, a great Juan Soto plan B for any team looking to quickly pivot from Soto. We did have Tyler Milliken is here, as is Ryan M., both asking about whether the Red Sox have any interest in Clay Holmes. I know that we've also heard Holmes might be a starter or might stay a reliever, and obviously a lot of teams are swarming. He could be one of the first dominoes. It could be tonight even, you'd think. When the names get floated around that much, it's usually pretty close. Any idea any of the teams that are in that market, or just a wide swath of them?
There's a pretty wide market here with Clay Holmes. As far as the Red Sox go, I have not heard anything there. I mean, you could take that for whatever it's worth. I mean, That doesn't mean they're not involved there. But it is interesting too, because this is not the only reliever that we've heard mentioned as a starting pitcher candidate, because we also heard Jeff Hoffman at the start of the offseason as a possible rotation candidate as well. And it makes you wonder if teams are starting to see the prices for some of these starting pitchers and really trying to get creative and trying to fill their rotations. So that is kind of what I'm thinking along those lines, is they're trying to get creative and fill in these rotations. So I think that's kind of where this stems from, and we'll see. But I trust Jason Stark. He's very good. So if he's saying that he's nearing a decision, I trust that he's nearing a decision.
And if he's saying that he's nearing a decision and it's Jason Stark specifically, my mind goes to Philly immediately. Should it? I don't know, but it kind of does. So.
Yeah, your mind works very similar to me in that regard, because whenever Jason Stark talks, my mind immediately goes to Philly. But I don't have any inside information there, but he's as clued in with Philadelphia as there is. So we'll see.
Clearly, the starting pitching market is leading. It's so wonky, it's leading to teams considering Jeff Hoffman and Clay Holmes. We didn't even talk about Luis Severino going to the Sacramento Athletics yesterday for 3 years, $67 million. If you're Sevy, you got to take it. If you're the A's, you got to spend. But my goodness, should the people of Oakland be upset? I would be if I were the people of Oakland.
I would be upset for sure. And that was. The A's have been very aggressive in the starting pitching market. And as John Heyman reported, they were very in on Sean Manaea. That was a player they really liked. We're not able to get a deal done there. And then they ended up turning their attention to Luis Severino, and they're paying him over $22 million a year for 3 years. And that is, that is a really strong deal for the player. That was above a lot of expectations there. The A's, to my knowledge, are not done. I am under the impression that they're poking around the outfield bats, or just bats in general. They're among many teams that are currently doing that as well, with the Angels among those teams, the Braves, the Royals, the 2 New York teams, obviously, and the Blue Jays there's surely others in there as well. But there's plenty of teams that are looking for outfield bats. But as far as the A's go, it would not sit well with me if I was an A's fan, or an Oakland A's fan, I should say. Seeing your team finally spend and give out the biggest contract in free agent history as soon as they end up leaving Oakland. That would sting. But yeah, they needed a rotation piece. They got them, and they had to overspend to do so.
Couple of questions going to the All-Stars, then we'll cover the chat, and we'll sign off and see you when the winter meetings start. Beyond the halo, we're talking pitching market. It's never been a better time to trade a pitcher. I know the Yankees are even thinking at this point they can clear Marcus Stroman, which would have sounded impossible a month ago. Do we think Tyler Anderson and or Reid Detmers could get traded out of the suddenly trying to compete again Angels rotation? Detmers feels like a steal for somebody. Tyler Anderson, you know exactly what he is. Kind of a moderately costly, talented innings eater.
Yeah, everything you just said is what I echo. I think if the Angels end up trading Reid Detmers, they're going to look really dumb for it in a couple of years.
Really dumb.
Yeah, he is a very talented guy, and you don't sell low on a guy that young, that talented. He oozes potential. I know I like to say that, but he's got so much potential, and I would not move him unless you're end up like getting overwhelmed with an offer. As far as Tyler Anderson goes, remember this from last year or last deadline is there was not many starting pitching options out there whatsoever, and the Angels still held on to him. And either they were overvaluing him or teams did not value him that highly. Maybe it's a mix of both. So, I mean, maybe he gets traded. Who knows? But that the fact that he wasn't traded last deadline would have me skeptical that he's moved now. But we'll see.
We shall see. All right, Drew in the All-Star channel. What is the Padres' plan for shortstop? What are the Padres' plans in general right now? I guess we're hearing a little bit of Roki Sasaki chatter.
Yeah, as far as the Padres go, I've been pretty consistent on this podcast in saying that they don't have a ton of flexibility this offseason. They have room to spend for sure, but you're not going to see them go crazy like they have in years past. And they have been poking around the catching market, and they had interest in Danny Jensen, but they were never really seriously involved there from what I've gathered. There was other teams that were plenty involved. And I want to have some insight on Jensen here after this. Mm-hmm. But the Padres, it is funny to hear the Padres being asked what their plan is at shortstop when they've spent so much money on shortstops in previous off seasons, like Tatis or Machado. I mean, they knew what Machado was when they signed him. But then Xander Bogaerts as well. I mean, they've spent a lot there. I don't have a firm name for you on what their plan is for shortstop. I'll just be totally honest with you there. But I'll repeat it again, Drew. I don't expect any big names there. That's the current reality of where we're at right now.
And they are a great team as currently constructed. And the deadline is there for maneuvering. But we'll keep you posted as we learn more. Rich asked in the All-Star channel about the Diamondbacks plans, trading starters, potentially fill holes. Are they still planning a push? I found this interesting because so much focus on the Diamondbacks at the end of 2023. Ascendant team, the scrappy wild card that made a World Series run a year or two ahead of schedule. Last year, they even looked like one of the best teams in the NL all summer before fading late. They've gotten lost in the shuffle this offseason, and they made impact moves last year. Eduardo Rodriguez was an impact move. Jordan Montgomery was an impact move. I thought they were ready to turn a corner and sort of compete for that wild card spot annually. But as of now, they're sort of getting buried this offseason. Do we have any insight on how they plan to operate moving forward?
Yeah, I think one of the first orders of business that they have to do is move Jordan Montgomery. That is a contract that they have to get rid of. And after Ken Kendrick's comments about Montgomery, they have to move on and just admit it as a loss. And I mean, Ken Kendrick has already admitted it as a loss in the media comments he made to one of the radio hosts here in Arizona. But to me, they're going to be in a position to contend. And if you move Montgomery, maybe you have enough money to like re-sign a guy like Christian Walker. That being said, Walker he's a candidate to sign a very nice multi-year contract, probably about 3 years is what I'm thinking, for around $20 million a year. And that could end up proving difficult for the Diamondbacks to end up doing. But to my knowledge, they still want to compete. They're listening on some of their other starting pitchers in trade talks. They're in listening mode, but they still want to contend. Obviously, the division runs through the Dodgers right now, but there's plenty of different wild card spots to be had. And we saw it when they ended up going to the World Series a couple of years ago. They can turn a wild card spot into a World Series berth real quick. So I think with the amount of talent on that team, the coaching staff and the leadership as a whole, they are absolutely going to still try to go to the playoffs.
And I'll be afraid of them if and when they get there, because I liked them a lot last year. I was surprised ultimately at the horn that we did not see them. Well, we don't want to compete with the Mets, who are currently live streaming Frankie Montas's intro press conference, so we might as well get out of here and bring on Carlos Mendoza's son. Sorry we kept you waiting for another 20 minutes. No. Robert, thank you so much for taking us through everything today. Thank you to everyone who showed up in the comments section. We can't wait to see you at the winter meetings. Robert will be boots on the ground. I will be in my home, which some YouTube commenters have referred to as a closet. It's always a bummer to hear, but I do see you. Robert, thanks for getting healthy, getting well, talking us through this, and hopefully we have a resolution to all this Juan Soto business so we can, in fact, stop talking about Juan Soto on the next show. Though, if he is signed, we are going to talk about that.
Yeah, we have to. It's our jobs. we need to talk Juan Soto, but we appreciate everyone who ended up tuning in, watching. I appreciate everyone again who supported me and while I was sick on Wednesday, who supported Adam on Monday while I was out. We appreciate you guys greatly. We will see everyone back here on Monday. I will be in Dallas, hopefully still 100% healthy. Otherwise, that'd be very bad. But I would recommend following along on my Twitter. I don't have anything in the drafts right now, but should be able to break plenty of news in Dallas and just going forward the rest of the offseason.
Yeah, shout out to Jess Kleinschmidt for joining me on Monday as well. Last minute, we got some good stuff out this week. We'll have great stuff out next week. Monday at 12:30 Eastern Time is the first show from the winter meetings. We are going to try to stay consistent with that 12:30 Eastern. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, giving you all you need, updating you on whatever is occurring in the meantime and whatever happened between shows, we'll bring it to you. But join us in the Discord if you want to talk ball between shows as well. And turn your notifications on. We will keep you updated if anything changes with the timing of those shows. We'll get a Q&A session in the All-Star channel for Robert after the winter meetings to help clean everything up. I had a fun time doing Q&A in there today, so thanks everybody for coming out for that as well. And yeah, follow us on Instagram as well. This is the first day of the Baseball Insiders Instagram. So please join us there. Help us build that following as well. And apparently go to Terry Black's Barbecue. Robert, I don't know if
this is nuts.
Is that you've heard of that? It's good.
Yeah, I went there the last time I was in Dallas, and it is absolutely crazy. Very good.
I want to have barbecue, man. Barbecue's so good. I haven't had good barbecue.
Yeah, the other one I want to try it's not in Dallas. It's further away. It's Franklin's Barbecue. That is my number one food bucket list place in the country. So that is, I need to go there.
I have heard good shit about Franklin's too. Well, all right. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Next show, half of us will be live from Dallas. We'll see you Monday afternoon, 12:30 Eastern, taking you through the latest on Soto and the latest on the rest of the market. Hopefully, a bunch of dominoes are falling. We'll see you then.
Thank you, everybody.